So into the charts we go, and we can see that Bitcoin is having a little bit of a down day today, very clearly right here. And again, this is the daily chart of Bitcoin. So every candle represents 1 day for the Bitcoin chart. All right, so bottom line is, why are we hovering right here? I have no trend lines on my chart. Let's start putting some trend lines in. So very easily, what we know is this is a trend line we've used quite a bit. We draw that line across right here, and what we could see is that this is where the collapse began. This was on the back of the FTX collapse. This is when we rallied back up. Look at how underneath it hit, pulled back, hit, pull back, hit, pull back, finally broke through. We went up, we put in our beautiful topping tail, which was a bearish indicator right there, and then price came right back. Why is it hovering right here? This trend line tells you exactly that. So again, price staying right here is telling us that this level is now support. Now, in terms of this level, the more we go sideways, the better that bear flag develops. And right now, it's another day of sideways consolidation. And that basically tells us, folks, that, again, you consolidate for a couple more days, you easily could have a break through this line to the downside. You'll have minor support right here at around 20,600. Following that, our next trend line is going to basically be right through here. You can see, again, look at how it connects through so many of the lows. The lows here, kisses right here, pierces here, and then the high is right there. So that would be your next spot at around 18,300. Now, I just want to be clear on this. There is a very, very important thing coming out tomorrow. On this Eastern time frame, Eastern time of the United States, it is at 8:30 a.m., and that is the CPI data. The CPI data. So essentially, interestingly enough, we're making a bear flag on the Bitcoin chart going into CPI data. That's a little concerning to me. Now, it's not an end-all be-all. It doesn't guarantee that Bitcoin will break to the downside, but it has to be a little bit of a concern, because even an immature bear flag like this does shift the probabilities to downside in that direction, right? So it may not be 70 or 80%, which would be more of a mature bear flag to the downside, but even an immature pattern like this is probably in the realms of 60% or so. So if you have to look at it, you would say it's greater than 50% chance that this pattern breaks down, maybe even on the CPI data. All right, interestingly enough, and I find this fascinating, you guys know that crypto is not in a universe to itself. It does have other things that impact it. One of those things is the US dollar. Well, what type of pattern formation is the US dollar? 3-bar surge to the upside, sideways chop. It's basically the inverse pattern of Bitcoin right now. And this would be referred to as a bull flag. Sharp up move, sideways consolidation. So again, the idea here is that you could see a move to the upside on the dollar, which then would make sense because we know a rising dollar tends to push risk assets to the downside, like Bitcoin, like Ethereum, like some of these others. So again, it's interesting how the charts, and again, I stress that there's no perfect recipe here, right? We know that. There's nothing where we can say, okay, this chart is 100%. If there was, heck, even I would put all my money on it, right? There'll be a no-brainer. But we know that's not how probabilities work. Probabilities give you favorings in one direction, and the idea is that you're playing the long-term probabilities, meaning that if you have 1,000 trades and the probabilities are 70%, you're going to win 700 out of 1,000 times. You should ultimately make really good money doing that, right? Just like the casino does when it has 1,000 gamblers walk through that door. Okay, so that's where we are at this point. The dollar, again, is also telling us we could see a little bit of a pop tomorrow on the CPI, which, again, does make it a little bit more bearish on the Bitcoin chart. Here's your Bitcoin chart again, and again, we could see those levels very, very clearly. I boxed these levels real quickly to show, again, how it hit. Here it broke down, resistance, broke through. Now this is support. Remember, breaking above resistance, that now becomes support on the way back down. It is acting that way, but the question is, does it break through eventually? Okay, so that's where we are at this point in time on the charts. And again, as we scroll through, let's go to the Ethereum chart. Now, Ethereum does have something that is also concerning. It is looking to close below this pivot low here at around 1,500. A close below that, while not confirming, it does open the door for a move down to the 1300 range. Now, I am still holding that short signal out with you guys. Is in the money now by a decent margin, but I think it's worth holding it into tomorrow and seeing if we get the bigger dump. Now, if tomorrow we were to sell off into this level, I would absolutely be covering my short and actually probably going long for a technical bounce. Two trend lines converging, 1, 2, that's going to be major technical support. You should see some sort of bounce off of that level if and when it gets hit. All right, let's take a look at Solana. Solana, after a nice pop yesterday, coming right back in, retesting the $20 support level here. It has not broken yet. If it does break, we know the 1765-ish area is your next technical support. And again, that'll be something that I watch for and likely will cover my short. Now, would I go long at that level on Solana? No, probably not. My long level on Solana would probably be down here a little bit further, around the 1470 level. And again, you have to realize that, yeah, there's going to be support here, but this is the higher probability. And it may not get there ever, right? I mean, who knows? But the point is, being disciplined is always going to be a benefit to every investor and trader because it keeps you out of bad trades or mediocre trades while you're only taking the best of the opportunities. Okay, let's take a look at Polkadot here. Polkadot, again, continues to kind of roll over a little bit. You could arguably say you're just holding on to some support here. Low pivot, and we're right there. We were below. Even if it breaks lower, you're still looking at good support around $5.65. The only level where I would say it would be worth buying more Polkadot would be right down here. A retrace to this down-sloping trend line would be very good in terms of major support. Take a look at Avalanche, which we took profits on. And again, it's not too far from where we took profits on. But again, if this does break down, this would be major support right here at around the $14 level. You can very clearly see this trend line as being a major trend line and worthy of a quick long trade. All right, let's take a few ganders at a couple of these other ones. XRP remains inside of that wedge pattern. The tighter this wedge pattern gets, the more it's going to tell us that it's going to break one way or the other. Again, remember, a wedge pattern, these two lines at some point out here, and right, I mean, look at this. I mean, basically, we can move it out and see, but basically, it looks like by mid to late March, price will have to break out. Now, it could do it sooner. I mean, it could do it here. Whoops, and I just moved that by accident. Let me bring that back in a little bit. So, again, it could do it here, over here, here. I mean, or it could break down over here. We don't know. But the point, what we do know from wedge patterns is that at some point it's going to, even if it stays in this wedge, at some point it's going to come to the head and then it's going to have to break one way or the other. So basically for me, when I look at this chart, it tells me that by mid to late March, we should have that judge's decision. And obviously that's going to be huge for crypto in general. And it is going to be absolutely huge for crypto in general. All right, now BNB is taking a beating today. Take a look at this drop. It is dropping, even though the rest of crypto is not taking such a big hit. This is falling into this support here. Notice again, the support line works. Now, we did see that the SEC filed lawsuit against the player that brought out the stablecoin for Binance. Again, I don't read into this stuff and I don't pretend to know the inner workings of that. That's not my job. My job is a technician of the charts. But the bottom line is it was bad news for BNB, and we are seeing it collapse on that news. Now, where would I be a buyer of BNB? Certainly not here, right? I mean, I'm not going to step up right here, first move down. Yes, it's support, but it's not going to be a big one. Somewhere in this lower vicinity. I mean, this would be more of where I look at having that little bit of support. Also, this upsloping trend line, somewhere in this lower range. So basically, suffice it to say, there's nothing in the near term that gets me super interested, in playing that. Taking a look at Tron at this point. Tron, again, tried to pop above this support. Ask yourself again, yes, it closed above this line. Did it ever confirm? The answer is obviously no, and it failed and came right back in. Then it's moving back up right into that line there. The big thing on Tron, if you're in Tron, what you want to watch for is this upsloping trend line. Notice how it hasn't closed below this line, let alone confirmed. If that ever happens, then price drops all the way back down to this area here, right? This would be your big area of support around 5.5 cents. As long as it stays above there, I mean, heck, maybe it continues to float up. I always look at upsloping trend lines and assume that at some point they're going to break to the downside, though, so just be a little careful on that front. Okay, just going to a couple of these others here out there. I don't see a whole lot else on the radar. in terms of some of these other ones. We can look at Matic real quick. Yeah, Matic's getting a nice little drop today too. So Matic will have some support around the 110 to 108 level right in here. I still wouldn't be a swing trade buyer though, let's be clear. Where would my first swing trade buy level be? Maybe 94 cents, somewhere in that vicinity. You can see in fact, this line goes all the way over here. Look at that. So you have this high here, this area here, this area here, and then these lows. So a retrace into that 94 to 95 area would be good. And then, honestly, these upsloping trend lines, you definitely want to be looking at this 85-cent range right here, these two trend lines as well. All right. On that note, folks, I'm going to step aside here. Good stuff on the crypto markets. I will continue to absolutely keep you guys posted on anything that I see on the charts. But right now, again, everything continuing to look weak or bearish in the crypto markets. CPI data, 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. That's going to be the big data that's going to drive the dollar. It's going to drive crypto. It's going to drive stocks tomorrow. Be ready for that. Again, that will be a market-moving event. You guys have a good one. Take care.